Welcome back to the Chefpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Chef Andres. How you guys doing today? Hey, make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. I'm excited for today's podcast. We have four very, very special guests today, our certified coaches in Chefpreneur, and also mentees of mine. This is going to be a really, really fun episode. We're going to dive into your guys' questions that you guys submitted. If you're watching this live, be sure that you're commenting here in the chat. And we'd like to ask those questions to our chefs live and answer those as well directly for you today. And just really excited about giving you guys as much value. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or Google Play, and you're listening to this as well as just a podcast, I know that you're not able to interact with us, but you can always watch it over here on YouTube as well. We try to go live every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. So without further ado, let me bring up our coaches and our panel today. Chefs, how are you guys doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Fantastic.
Good.
Awesome.
Super good.
It's nice having all five of us on here, right? It's nice.
Yeah.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So, as I said before the show, the first question I'm going to ask you guys, and I don't think some of you guys have eaten lunch yet, but I always kind of like to ask chefs what they ate for lunch. And I'll go first because just to get the ball rolling, I had some sirloin steak, some zucchini, some tzatziki sauce, some tomato. Try to keep it no carbs so I can be ready for the podcast. So I'm not falling asleep. No, I'm just joking, but just kind of weighed down by carbs. What did you guys eat? Just to kind of give us all a little bit of insight into your guys' dietary lifestyle.
I just got back from a road trip and had a breakfast taco because I was craving it.
Okay, nice. Ooh, breakfast taco. What'd you put in your breakfast taco?
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
Very Texas of you, Chef Jared.
Thank you, Chef Justin.
Yeah, that's nice. Breakfast taco.
Good old breakfast tacos.
They're
Chef
better in
Cinnamon,
San Antonio than Austin.
Chef Cinnamon said that she had, you said $1 million chicken?
Yeah, it's called that. It's just because it's so luxurious that it tastes like $1 million. It's really not for the faint at heart. So it's grilled chicken, but it has cream cheese, mayonnaise, bacon, and sour cream, and you put it under the broiler, and it's just heaven. So, yeah,
Well,
that's what I
good.
had. $1 million.
That sounds good. $1 million, million calories. I like it. That's what it is. Chef Elizabeth, have you had lunch yet?
I had a bite of an apple Danish before I came out to join this call.
Apple Danish. All right. I like that. It's all right. I like that. Well, again, and Justin, I think you just said that you had a protein shake, correct?
Yeah, lots of black coffee and a protein shake. That's about it.
That's a black coffee. I don't drink coffee. I know that's very strange. My wife thinks I'm weird. I don't drink coffee. I guess my vice, like I've said before, is an occasional cigar. That's like my vice that I have. So, but well, awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. So, again, this podcast episode is really just about getting questions answered from our community, and I'm really just excited to bring this to you guys. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to we have some questions that were submitted. Again, if you're watching this live, please don't be shy. Make sure you comment in the chat any questions that we can answer for you while we all have this panel on. And I'm really excited because we had some really good questions submitted, and I think that it's going to really help not only the people that obviously asked the question, but other chefs that are listening to this, because there's just some really good questions today. So let's start with, actually, Chef Olivia asked two questions, but I'm going to go with her first question. She asked, when meeting a new client, should you see their kitchen before cook day? How and when does that factor into the overall service being provided, including the cost? I'm going to throw that one actually at Chef Justin. I'm going to break the ice with Chef Justin today. What do you have for Chef Olivia? What is your advice on answering that question?
It's first of all, it's a great question. Because a lot of times, especially starting out your personal chef business, you don't know what you're going to be walking into type of situation when you get into these homes, right? So when it comes to menu writing and equipment, I typically try to write my menu based on what I have available and also just what kind of every kitchen will have, right? Like standardly, every kitchen will have a stove, will have an oven, pots, pans, that kind of stuff. If it comes to like a specific sauce that I like to make, where I like to have like a Vitamix blender, I bring mine with me. So when it
Mm.
comes to like very specific tools and equipment, I do bring some stuff with me, but I don't bring everything. For the most part, when I'm on the phone with the client and say we're booking a party for 15 to 20 people, I typically like to ask the questions of, do we have enough plates? Do we have enough silverware? And when they select their menu items, if there is something I need specifically, I will ask those questions if they have that. If not, then I will bring my own.
I like that. So basically, you're kind of planning that they have most of the things that we need, but you're basically saying, hey, I'm going to bring some stuff as well that I know I need.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And I would concur 100% with that. And I think it's something for Chef Olivia to think about, is just kind of looking at her menu. What does she need? What do you need for equipment wise and things, maybe special tools that you have? I know that she asked a little bit as well. How does that factor in the overall cost? Would you say, Justin, that that's not really necessarily going to factor into the cost, or do you feel like you upcharge for anything that you bring with that aspect of it?
That's a good part of the question. The only time I will add additional cost is if I have to rent something outside of what I have. So
Mm-hmm.
for any reason, if the guest only has 12 plates for a party of 15, then I will recommend at that time to rent plateware and silverware, which I have a partner close in town that I could rent that stuff from. And I will upcharge from that as well.
That's good.
Just for myself going to picking that up and bringing it to the event and cleaning it up and dropping it off. I do charge a service charge for that. It's not much. I only charge an extra 15% on top of what the rental company charges me, but it's nice to have something like that in your back pocket that you can use when you get into a situation like that. So I personally don't have to purchase a bunch of plates and silverware, that kind of stuff. We could just rent them if we need to.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's good advice. Yeah, and again, you know, that's really what we teach, right? I mean, we kind of teach use as much in the client's home as possible, make it a seamless experience. If we need to rent something, we rent something. Of course, we just pass that along as well. And actually, I'll just kind of add in a little tidbit for me lately. What I've done too is when we have to rent something, sometimes I'll kind of place the quote or the order, and then I'll actually have them kind of reach out specifically to the rental company to render the payment, all that, just so it doesn't go through us necessarily. And then I have to deal with all of that. Plus, if there's any breakage or whatever, it's not a he said, she said type of thing. It's kind of more in the agreement between them and the catering company. So just kind of eliminates a little bit of back and forth and a little bit of hassle, if that makes sense. So great answer, brother. That's a great answer and great question to Chef Olivia. And she asks, her second question she asked as well, because she really took her time and really asked some great questions, is she said, this is a little bit of a two-part question regarding containers and spices. I thought about charging a container fee and providing the container on cook day myself, disposable and compostable material. There are a couple drawbacks to this, I think, but I'm wondering if it would be best to have the client provide their own containers. Likewise, with spices, I was thinking of carrying my own suitcase, quote unquote, of spices and charging a pantry fee. I'm not sure how that works as far as them already having something or trusting that they didn't use what I previously purchased between cook days. Can you shed some light on this? Chef Cinnamon, I think you would be a really good chef to answer that question from Chef Olivia, and it is a little bit of a two-parter. It's funny, this is actually a question I feel like we get asked a lot in the community on just when it deals with like spices and some things that are going on. So, Chef Cinnamon, can you answer that for Chef Olivia?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think that so one of the things that I do with my meal prep clients, which those are the majority of my clients, is they do have to buy their own containers. And one of the things is I don't know. I mean, spices go bad. Even if they're sealed, they can be there for years, and you don't know what they if they're going to taste all right or what the quality of them is. So I have a space in the pantry with the new spice containers, and by new, I usually go to like HEB or a grocery store that has a nice bulk spice section, so you don't have to buy a $12 bottle of cloves that you might use twice a year. but be able to buy just enough that you'll need for a month or two until you need to buy that again. And so that they know that those are the spices that the chef is going to cook with whenever they're there, and not to use those spices. And just for, so that we keep the quality of the spices, the quality and the flavor is going to be there for them. And then also, yes, as far as having a cabinet, carrying them around, you guys can talk about, usually our car is full of things anyway, if you are bringing special equipment, and then you may forget it or something like that. So I like to just keep it there so you always have it. I've known other chefs that people will use the spices. The people I cook for, they don't usually cook, so I haven't run into that yet. And definitely don't charge a pantry fee from myself, because I've noticed that just like in the last 30 days, the spices have gone up, some of them twice, double on some of the things that I use. And so if you have just a pantry fee, you may be cutting yourself out of some money there.
Okay. That's great. I think that's great insight. And yeah, I've noticed that it's sometimes difficult with the quality of things. I'm just going to throw this in, like every time my family and I have stayed in an Airbnb and you see the garlic salt that's in that cupboard or whatever, and you're like, oh God, like when was, it was like 1991, maybe somebody was seasoning a burger outside, right? And it's just kind of like, ugh. So you got to really be careful, I think, just in the quality of what you're saying. And there's nothing wrong, again, with passing on those costs to the clients. And sometimes you're just saying, hey, would you like to leave these spices with you? Or, again, if it's something that you use a lot, like I've never charged a client for salt. We use Diamond Crystal Kosher salt. That's like our favorite when I cook. And I just buy a couple boxes, and then it's like I just buy that on the company, on the company account. But it's not necessarily I'm passing that on to a client. So there's just specific things, just a little bit of for me too. And I'm not for sure if they have anything like that as well there, like in your area in Dallas. And I'm going to actually just kind of announce where you guys are at as well here. But before we go on more questions, but Sprouts, I love Sprouts. So like Sprouts has where you could buy like spices by the ounce and things like that. I think it's by the ounce or by the gram, something like that. And you're able to just buy what you need, right? Okay, you need, a couple tablespoons of this, couple tablespoons of that. You're able to just kind of buy it, use it for the dish. It's fresh. You're not feeling like you're having to store too much for too long. But again, the fact is we are chefs, and we're going to use those spices more than most people will in their pantry. So usually they're staying pretty fresh as well when we have kind of like what you said, Chef Cinnamon, and even what Chef Olivia was saying, kind of like a suitcase of spices. So I think there's just some pull there. If you're an Indian chef, I mean, you're going to have your suitcase no matter what, because there's no way that you're going to be able to say, well, they're going to have what I have, and you're probably going to want to toast a cardamom and do all that stuff. So awesome. Great answer, Chef Cinnamon. 100% agree with that. And great question from Chef Olivia. Some great questions there. Before we get on to more questions, I'd like to kind of go around now and just kind of technically introduce you guys. I sent out an email with this, but we've been putting it a little bit on social media as well, but just wanted to kind of reintroduce. So we'll start with Chef Jared. Chef Jared is an amazing chef. He's been in our community, I think, for almost 4 years now, Chef Jared? I mean, it's been a while, right? Or more.
Almost five.
Almost five, right? And started with us in our masterclass, and we helped him build his brand and rebuild his brand as well, on just kind of taking it to the next level. And now he's technically our first certified coach, and he's Experience a Chef is his company out in San Antonio. If you want to just say hello to everybody, Chef Jared, and just kind of introduce yourself, even though I kind of did it for you. But
yeah, we're in San Antonio, but growing rapidly. We really try to tell we like to create memories and stories through food. So I always tell people, remember the time when you were a kid and this specific meal happened, and you tell that story every single year. Well, we try to create those memories. And so that's kind of our focus. Food kind of comes in second. It's a big part of it, but it's about creating those memories and those moments that you can talk about for years and years.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Chef Justin, I know we already heard an answer from you as well, but just Chef Justin Collimore out of Austin, Texas. Little interesting story about me and Chef Justin that some of you may not know. We've actually spoken on the phone a long time ago, way before Chefpreneur was even out there, way before I was even in my own business. He was the chef over at the country club, right across the way, right? Was it the Crossings?
Yeah, the Crossings Golf Course.
Yeah, the Crossing. And I was the exec sous at the time at the Sheraton Resort in Carlsbad, right across the street. And he had a little bit of a situation and called over. And was it sanitize? Like, was it soap? I think was it like
Yeah, it was the Ecolab dishwashing soap.
That's right. And I remember talking to him on the phone, and he was like very appreciative. I said, "Yeah, we'll send over a bucket," because he had a health inspector coming, and I guess the shipment of soap didn't come in. So you know what they'll do, and especially in California, they're just gonna murder you for that. So yeah, we've actually talked, and then just years later, and I don't know, did you know that it was me that you talked to back in the day before you talked to me again in Chefpreneur? Or no?
I don't think so. I think it clicked later on. I honestly I don't remember exactly when, but because when I first learned about Chefpreneur, it was through the podcast, and then I started looking you up and doing my own research on you, and I think that's how I figured it out.
Yeah. It's just wild. We just kind of like when we ended up talking. And so Chef Justin is one of our esteemed proteges, and his business is Lone Star Chefs. And anything else you want to add, Chef Justin, just to say hello to everyone?
Oh, not much. Just wrapping up the year. I'm in the second year of my personal chef business. So super excited for next year. We are going to expand out to Dallas next year. So super excited for that. And we just got a lot of stuff going on, and we're busy. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on today. I'm appreciative of it, and I'm glad to have you here. Chef Elizabeth Cummings out of technically, I'll say Montgomery, Alabama, even though we know it's Prattville, but yeah, just, you have a little bit of an interesting background. She's the founder and owner of Cajun Amore, and she's also an esteemed protege. And again, all four of these amazing chefs are now, I'm lucky to call them certified coaches, and honestly, mentees of mine. And really, really excited to have you on today, Chef. And you have a bit of an interesting background too. Do you want to share a little bit about what you did before you started your business?
Sure. Yeah, this is my second career. So I did about 10 years in public health. I was starting in pediatric heart transplant research, moved over to infection prevention, and then decided I had enough of the public health world and wanted to pursue my cooking dream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Elizabeth tends to be a bit more educated than I in various ways on that, but I do know this business really well. Thank God. God gave me some sort of brain here, but really excited to have you on, Chef. And I know you're going to continue to just not only add value to the people that you serve. Chef Elizabeth really helps orchestrate a lot of things behind the scenes as well. Chefpreneur, I got to give her 100% props on that. She's very involved with the university and very involved with structuring things and helping this old guy that I love. I love talking on camera to people and love inspiring people and coaching people. And I've had to learn how to get, of course, pretty solid with administrative things and technologically things, but Chef Elizabeth brings a lot of her background as well into structure and that. And so I wanted to say thank you to you live with everybody, just to all the help that you've helped me do with this and structuring that. So amazing to have you here. Chef Cinnamon, again, we've already heard from you already, answering an awesome answer and a question here from Chef Olivia, but Chef Cinnamon is another esteemed protege of ours. She's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Culinary Indulgence is her company. And she's been cooking for a while, but just Chef Cinnamon, I got to tell everybody, because I know they don't know your last name, but her full name is Cinnamon Applegate. And I just think that that's so cool. When I was interviewing you on the podcast, and even when I first talked to you, I'm just like, what a name, right? For a chef. I mean, really it's pretty right there. But, Chef Cinnamon has been really an integral part of just even the journey of what Chefpreneur is, in the sense of really showcasing what God, I really believe, has called this, this movement and community to do. And it's just a really great honor and a pleasure to have you here, Chef. I think if you want to share anything about yourself a little bit as well with the listeners and with the people watching today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I've been cooking for a long time, but was never able to make enough money that I could quit my, let's call it a 9 to 5. And then I hired a coach and a mentor in April, and went from just one meal prep client to 5 regular ones and lots of parties now. And so bringing in, I guess it's about 4 times more money than I was with me and my husband working full-time jobs.
That's
So
awesome.
in just about 8 months, everything changed, and I am truly living the dream.
Oh, that's awesome, Chef. Thank you for sharing that. And again, I can't say thank you enough for your guys' time. Your time is very valuable, and I'm really excited that we're able to be imparting into people. And I want to get your faces out. To be honest, I want you guys to be more in the limelight. I think there's so many different dynamics. It's like, I think people love listening to Andres. I've been told that many, many times, and I love dishing it out. Okay, but there's just so much that you all impart, and you bring different avenues. Really, you bring different avenues to just really the community. And because we all have different backgrounds, we have different experiences. And I think that's what makes this very powerful. And I think that it's going to translate into, again, kind of this Q&A session and this kind of panel, as you will, today. So let's continue on with some questions. In fact, I think Chef Alvarine just commented, "Hello, chefs," here on the comment in the live. And that's actually whose question we're going to answer next. So Chef Alvarine says, "Hello, chefs. What should I do when and if I get clients? With my funds not readily available and don't have my website yet, I'm a bit hesitant to put myself out. Will I be needing a commercial kitchen and insurance as well?" I want to hand this over to Chef Elizabeth. I think you're going to be able to answer that correctly as well. And what advice do you have for Chef Alvarine asking that? As far as it goes with the not only the commercial kitchen, the insurance, but hesitant to put ourselves out there without even the website, or maybe not having all the funds that we need.
So getting started, you don't need as much as you think you do. Insurance, yes, you want to have that. That just is a good safeguard to protect you in case something happens in a client's home. The other thing that you really need to have is a business banking account. So when you collect that deposit, that money is separate from your personal funds, and you don't accidentally spend it going out for yourself, and then you can't buy the groceries for your client. If you follow the Chefpreneur model of charging a 50% deposit, you'll have the funds to get the groceries for the day of your event, and you don't have to have the startup funds for that. The only other thing I would recommend that you absolutely have to have right away is a good knife set. Most of the kitchens you go to will have everything else that you need, but even in the nicest kitchens that your clients have, you're probably going to wish you had your own knife set. And you can build your own box of tools as you continue on, but just getting started, I think it's great you can get clients without a website. The website builds more authenticity to you, but if you can go ahead and get clients beforehand, do it, because you'll have more to put picture-wise on your website and more reviews to just build up that you are a legit personal chef and not someone with a side gig.
That was great. That was straight to the point. And I think that was really good advice, honestly, for Chef Alvarine. I've noticed, and I think you guys have noticed this too, chefs, and I have the distinct honor of coaching every single one of you. So I can not disclose the hurdles I had to go sometimes with our thinking and even the people on this panel. But I think all of us, we can second guess ourselves, or we can get in our head so much about really just kind of putting our foot forward and stepping out and really doing what we have to do. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't realize. It's very common. And I could tell it, here, that every single person on this panel has had that as well, where there's just some level of mental blocks of, certain things that hold us back. And so I think that was very sound advice of what Chef Elizabeth said, Chef Alvarine, on really getting yourself, making sure that you're established enough so you're not feeling like you're on an unsolid ground, but at the same time, not doing so much where it's hindering and it's holding you back from really trying to actually get this thing going, right? And that's something that again, it's very common with people. So great question there. All right, our next question comes from Chef Shamika. It says, do you have any tips on how to boost bookings for personal chef services? I don't have a website yet. Chef Jared, you want to take that one away for Chef Shamika? So,
Yeah,
any tips on boost bookings? And she doesn't have a website yet.
that's my favorite topic of the year right now. It's just, yeah. So I think that's kind of the first hurdle that everybody runs into, because they always think, oh, if I have a website, uh, I need leads, I need leads, I need leads, and I need leads. But you can get those without your website, right? Uh, the biggest, when I started getting into it and was kind of busy, I kind of relied on apps like Thumbtack and things like that. And then some of those platforms started charging a little extra, and then all of a sudden I was like not getting as many leads, and I really kind of took a step back and went back to the basics of the Chefpreneur method and started strategic partnerships again and really focusing in on it. And it has regrown my business again. And I actually enjoy that more. You get to build those relationships with those other companies and really dig into those moments that they want to create, right? I mean, we're doing this to create those moments for people. So you want your strategic partnerships to have those moments as well. And so when I go and I do a free dinner, for our strategic partnerships, and that's really where I dig into what they want and how do they see their place, and how can we help them grow, and it grows in that moment, right? So I can think of a very specific one. We kind of talked on the phone a little bit, and like she was like, I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of people coming through here that want this. I said, well, let me just cook for you and like your staff, like 3 or 4 of your people. We'll just have dinner together, and I'll cook for you, and you can see what it's like. And within that, every course, we talked a little bit about her venue and what she wanted, and we almost built a specific menu for their venue. And she sends me clients all the time now. And she'll call me and say, hey, I just saw this sensory dinner, and I want to do a 5 senses dinner. And I'm like, great, let me write a menu up. And then she's like, it's hers, right? And I think
So cool.
building your strategic partnerships builds your clients, right? And it kind of, they see what you want. It gives you those moments to see what they want, and then you can kind of build together. And I mean, I find other chefs as strategic partners too. So that would be my advice on building that for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Chef Jared. That's really awesome. I love how you actually took not only the partnership with that and kind of, I don't want to say morphed yourself with their business, but in a way that's really, again, about adding value, right? Like any strategic partnership. And so for those of you guys as well, like just to really be clear, it doesn't mean that you're giving a percentage of your business away to somebody as like an official partner. It's strategic. It's like we're feeding each other leads. There's things that are crossing over with our services, and we're also serving very similar clienteles. And I think that's really important for people to understand. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. I always say this, you tap into a company that has maybe been around for 30 years. And Chef Shamika, you might be saying, hey, I don't have my website yet. I'm just starting out. Now, again, we obviously would suggest you getting a really dialed in website. I mean, it's going to help you definitely overall and really structuring your business in a really sound way. But the fact of the matter is as you put yourself, in the position of saying, I want to receive bookings, and you start to build those relationships, you're now tapping into a company, like I said, that could be around for 20 years. And now that company that has spent 20 years, thousands of dollars acquiring customers and getting kind of a customer base, you're able to tap into that as well by basically now being associated with them. So really, really, really great stuff. That was a great answer there. And again, a great question. These are great questions starting out. Our next question comes from Chef Mark. Chef Mark says, how do you get over the fear of just doing it, starting it, taking the leap? I want to go into Chef Justin for this one. I think he's going to be able to answer this one. Chef, what do you have for Chef Mark as far as like, how do you do it like Nike, right? Just do it. But like, is there any tips you can give him on how to overcome that fear?
Chef Mark, you just got to jump, brother. You got to get in there. I had a lot of fears as well when I first started this business, and there's a few things I could say is if it and there's things that we need to overcome when starting a business, but how are we going to learn if we don't jump in there, right? I mean, there's definitely things that I have failed at starting this business, but we can't learn if we don't fail, right? So I had a really hard time with communication face to face with people. I'm a chef. I've been working 16 years in restaurants and hotels. I've never really had to be in a position where I had to cook in front of clients, right? So that was a big fear of mine, and being able to call these partnerships and build connections was scary for me. It's just a matter of just starting with one and you move on to the next one. I started with wedding planners because it just seemed like people that were easy to talk to, right? Because that's what they do. And then you move on to these vacation rental companies, and then you start building the confidence of talking to people and telling them what they want to hear. That was a big struggle for me. And now I have 60 plus partners that I work with. So it's a matter of just overcoming just the littlest things and just start small and work your way up, right? Time's not going to slow down for us, for any of us. So it's just a matter of getting going.
That's awesome. You know, it's so funny how you mentioned that, Justin. I think as well, I don't want to add to that. I want to kind of feel in my heart to just kind of throw a couple things. I think all of us have to retake leaps constantly in our business. You know, Patrick Bet David, who I listen to quite a bit. I've been listening and following Patrick Bet David for many years now, and I've actually been blessed to FaceTime him once, which is pretty cool. But you know, he used to always say, "You're always preparing yourself and your business to sell it." And a lot of people think instantly like, "Oh, sell it to make a money," like selling the company. Well, that could be it. But I love what he said next, because every year you're either going to continue with your business and reinvest in it and buy it again, whether it's with your time, your energy, emotions, and your finances and resources. So every year you're reinvesting in a way, or you're having to buy your business again. And so there's these leaps we are always taking. We're always taking steps. We're going to feel discouraged. We're going to have low moments. We're going to have high moments. It's just part of what it is. But the surest way to never score a touchdown in a game is to not play in the game and not be on the field. 100%, you're going to have 100% chance that nothing will ever change for you. You will never start a business if you never start. I mean, it's really that simple in the sense of that. Now, yes, it's challenging to get over that, as Justin's saying. I just think that, like, it's really dawned on me, like, I can't complain about not scoring a touchdown in business if I'm not even playing the game. You have to be on the field. You can't be on the sidelines. You can't be in the stands. And it's really easy for us as well to like be jealous of people that are their business is doing well. It's easy to compare, but it's like we're not even playing on the field, you know? So it's really hard to really say anything if we're not even on the field playing. And by the way, if you're in the game, you're going to take hits and you're going to get back up and run the play again. And you're going to continue to do it until you score. So great advice there, Chef Justin. And I hope that really encouraged you, Chef Mark. And so this is something that, again, there's just people in different stages that are knowing they want to do things and they know they want to start their business. And they're just like, how do I just take that leap? And sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid with the hair and all, and it's not going to feel good at first, but it'll be better, right? To get the air in the wound. So that's awesome. Our next question comes from Chef Sean. Chef Sean. And they asked, for meal prep, how would you pay yourself? How do you price? I want to give this over to Chef Cinnamon. I know she does quite a bit of meal prep. Chef Cinnamon, how would you answer that question for Chef Sean?
Well, it's actually pretty easy. So, I mean, how you pay yourself, I think he means like how much do I charge there?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do have a minimum. So whenever we're talking about meal prep clients, it's a $400 minimum plus the cost of food. Now, that $400 minimum, that's going to depend on how many people we're cooking for, how often they want cook days, and how many servings, and also like the level of difficulty, which most of them are usually pretty easy. But so I have people that are only paying $400 a week plus the cost of food, and then I have a couple clients that are paying $3,000 a month plus the cost of food. So it really just depends on. That's the great thing. We get to customize it, and since they are paying the plus the cost of food, then the rest of it we get to put in our time and everything else that we do as personal chefs on making those menus and shopping for the groceries and prepping and things like that.
Awesome. And I think that's just great advice. And I love what Chef Cinnamon said. It's simple. Again, we get in our head and we overcomplicate things, and we just got to do it. And I think that's the key of it. So I hope that really helped you out, Chef Sean.
Actually, can I expound on that a little bit more
Yeah, of
too?
course. Of course.
So I think that so I've been charging for my services since 2015. And the thing about it, but only now am I making money, because I used to be so afraid that somebody wouldn't want to pay $15 a meal. I was so afraid of that, even though I knew I could make them real good stuff. So I ended up paying people to make meals for them. So it wasn't until I owned that I could say, oh yeah, it's $400 minimum plus the cost of food. Until I owned that, nobody was taking me seriously. And now I say that to people, and they're like, okay, can you start on Tuesday? So that's a really important, the mindset, for
I
sure.
love that. And I have seen the mindset transformed in Chef Cinnamon. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes continual confidence, but it takes that first step forward and feeling as well that you have that solid footing to step on. And at the end of the day, I say, you guys are probably hearing me saying it, like sick of me saying it, but mindset and mentality, there's so much involved in that. Strategically, yes, there's strategic things and how to do things. A lot of it is a mindset game. Most things in life are. so that's really a great answer, and I hope that helped Chef Sean out. Before we get to another question that was submitted, we actually have one here in the chat from Chef Robert. Chef Robert, thank you for joining us. I hope you're still tuning here. And he said, would strategic partnership be the option for needing to jump in with limited money and no website? I want to take the courses with Chefpreneur, but I need to build a little capital. And then he kind of followed up with that saying, and would barbecue or barbecue comfort food be a good strategic partnership? So he says he's still here. So awesome. He gets to get his question answered live. Chef Elizabeth, let me throw that one at you with would that be a good option for partnership starting before needing to jump in with limited money and kind of no website, which I know we talked a little bit about already, but if you want to expand on that, Chef Elizabeth, and then again, the strategic partnership aspect for barbecue comfort food.
I guess I'm kind of confused by the question of partnership, like partnering with another company that does the comfort food and barbecue, or providing that for somebody that's looking for it.
I think that he's trying to say, and I could be wrong, Chef Robert, are you trying to say, as far as like your niche, what you want to specialize in, to partner with other people, like you offer barbecue and barbecue comfort food for to like put yourself out there? I think that's what he means, is like trying to say, this is what I want to do, and then I'm partnering with people who want that. So I would say that that's probably how he's asking the question, providing it. Okay, yeah. So he's saying providing that service.
Yeah, so I think if that's what you're passionate about cooking, then absolutely go for it. There's a demand, especially in Alabama, for good barbecue for all the events. And I think it's a really easy sell because, like, around my area, people don't really know what a personal chef is. So I'm having to do a lot of education on that. I don't know what area he's in, but no matter where you are in the US, people like barbecue. And if you can bring a good barbecue to their event, they're happy. And that's a really easy way to build up clientele and get good referrals out of it because you do a great barbecue. There's someone else that has an event coming up next weekend where they are looking for another good barbecue, and you're not going to get tired of it. I think it's an easy way to do a partnership too, especially when you've got, football games and other sporting events. It's a really good way to feed a lot of people at once. And there's a lot of variety already, and you don't really need much setup. As long as you've got a grill, you're good to go, right?
Oh, that's great advice. And I think that starting partnerships is a good way to get into it with no money. More of
Right.
the skill set and the time in the relationship. He did mention right now that he just messaged here that he's from Texas.
Oh,
So
awesome.
obviously Texas is known for barbecue. So you're going to be in good company, let's say.
Yeah.
So again, maybe what advice, Chef Elizabeth, would you say that he can offer to maybe make it a bit different? Not necessarily the food aspect, but how can he present himself maybe to set himself apart from like, well, I'm just another Texas chef doing barbecue. But there, we have to say, I mean, three out of the four certified coaches are in Texas, so it's kind of crazy, right? But there's a lot of bad barbecue. I mean, there's a
There
lot of
are.
bad barbecue in Texas, to be honest, I'm sure. But there's also some really, really good barbecue. But what is something, and maybe just even open panel for the other chefs too on this specific part? What are some ideas, Chef Elizabeth, or any of the other chefs like that? Chef Robert can maybe differentiate himself a bit to really just kind of say something more unique.
I'd say whatever you can do to make yourself have something that you're known for, whether it's like a sauce or a rub or something, not necessarily that it's a la carte, but that one flavor that everybody looks for. So, like, we have Full Moon Barbecue here, and everyone knows that they've got their chow chow that goes with the barbecue, or they have their half moon cookies that goes with the barbecue. It's not necessarily about the barbecue itself, but the accent to it. And if you can have some sort of hook, either on the culinary side or the experience side, that can really set yourself apart, you're going to build that clientele too. Maybe you cook all of your barbecue over an open fire, like a campfire style or something. Or maybe you have a cowboy outfit that you wear when you're cooking. You can have fun with the ideas of how to set yourself apart where people think of your company, they think of that one image or that one experience that they're going to get.
That's good. That's good. That's really good advice, actually. I like that. I know it's as simple as like wearing a cowboy getup and being that more personalized person out there, kind of like almost like a personal chef, obviously. That's already differentiating yourself. You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of
Yeah.
people necessarily that do that. Anyone have anything else to add for Chef Robert? He said awesome, by the way.
I do. I'd like to
Yeah.
add on to this. Um, I know I live in Austin, Texas, Robert, and obviously we have the best Texas or barbecue in Texas, right? Um, long
Oh
story
boy.
short,
We're starting a feud here right on the podcast live for everyone.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But we do have a good amount of barbecue catering companies in the area, but I've yet to find a chef that specializes in barbecue. We don't have a personal chef business out here that I've found that specializes in barbecue. So even just that in general is a good niche to have because I've had partners reach out to me and ask me if I do barbecue, and I choose not to because it's not what I specialize in. Obviously, good barbecue takes good time, but
Yeah.
it's if you specialize in that you're already ahead. So.
Yeah, it's good advice. Actually, we have a client in one of our partnerships in Scottsdale, and that they're wanting upscale American barbecue. Like they're literally wanting it upscale, and we're like, okay, like do you want it plated? They're like, no, kind of like family style, but like they literally said, think of Thomas Keller's Bouchon, but for barbecue. And I'm like, okay. So, you're like, what do I do with that? Right. Like, But again, there's going to be people. There's going to be people that are out there. He says that he's in the outskirts of Houston. He might just have really good barbecue that he's able to bring to Houston. I don't know very much about, Houston's barbecue scene, but that's great advice. Anybody else anything to add for Chef Robert on that one?
Yeah, Robert, I'd start looking in your area at some places where people would maybe take a vacation to, or things like that. Like maybe there's a big ranch out there that does hunting trips or something. And give those guys a call and say, hey man, can I come cook some barbecue for you? And we just talk about what your guests do and what they're up to, and then it starts from there, man. That's where you're gonna get your first clients for sure.
Oh man, that's great. That's great advice. Yeah, it's kind of taking that side angle spin on it as well. And since he's outskirts of Houston, I'm not for sure where, but you're not super far from the coast with some of those things too. And again, people traveling in, not everybody's going to go to, what is it, Terry Black's, or not everybody's going to come into Texas and go directly to like 2 or 3 of the big ones, right? They're going to come in, they're going to want different things in wherever they're staying. And so, it's funny, a long time ago, it reminds me of just what Chef Jason told me a long time ago, right? And we were actually hazing our executive chef, Chef Daniel, in my company, and he's from Italy. And he was making a specific dish, right? That was Italian, but he's from Rome, and this was like more Tuscan. It was not really in his wheelhouse, even though he's Italian, right? And I tried it, and I'm like, Chef Daniel, we got to work on this. This is not up to par. And I remember talking to my mentor, Chef Jason, who also he worked for in Chicago. It's actually how we actually came to be. Was my old mentor from the Ritz-Carlton referred me to Chef Daniel because they were moving to San Diego, him and his wife. And so long story short, all that being said, it's funny because I told Chef Jason, I was really shocked that Chef Daniel's dish kind of sucked. And it was like Italian, right? And he's Italian. And he says, what, does every American cook a good burger? And I'm like, that's true, right? So like, again, every Texan doesn't know barbecue. I mean, really, right? Like, it's just how it is. And now I know which Chef Robert it is. It says he's from Cleveland. I know exactly Chef Robert who it is. I actually have had several conversations with him. Nice to see you on here, Chef Robert. And he is going to be, I know he's going to be enrolling with us soon, actually, and getting some coaching. And probably one of these amazing people will be your coach. So really awesome. But yeah, it's really something that is, again, evolving into really getting yourself and putting yourself a little bit separate of what you do, but making it, I guess you would say, relatable, but again, unique and different in what you're offering. So that's fantastic. Great answers, everyone, and great questions. So our last question that was submitted was from Chef Tad. Chef Tad says, what was your most difficult struggle of opening your business, and how did you overcome that struggle? How many other personal chef businesses are in your area, and what do you do to make your niche stand out? I want to start off with Chef Cinnamon, but I'm actually kind of curious about this question. I think that I'd like to kind of get a little bit from all of you after this, like kind of one-on-one on this one, because all of us have different struggles we overcome when we're starting or growing our businesses. And I just kind of want to hear from all of you, but let's start with Chef Cinnamon on that. Like, what was your most difficult struggle of opening your business, and really, how did you overcome that?
I think one of the things was just having the comfort of a 40-hour work week job and the benefits and things like that. Just having that, and having one foot there and one foot, trying to do the personal chef business, which means I wasn't doing great at either of them. And so the biggest thing for me, I thought it was marketing, but really what it was to get that foundation down, find out what my niche is. And because I just wanted to cook for everybody, I just wanted to cook for people, and getting that niche down, getting a brand, getting the website up, and finding strategic partners. That was all new to me, and it was great because whenever I started doing those things, like the Chefpreneur, the method, I started getting clients that, and like I said, living my dream. And for here, I'm in the greater DFW area, and the last time I checked, of registered people or people that actually call themselves personal chef is about 480-ish, just under 500 personal chefs in this area. And I don't really, okay, so how do I stand out from the competition? I I would think that it's just because, I mean, the company's name is Culinary Indulgence, and it's indulgent food, it's rich food, and one of our taglines is just relax, enjoy, and indulge. And I think a lot of people, we're all trying to live healthy lifestyles and things like that, but when it comes to time to party, you guys relax, enjoy, indulge, let's take care of everything. And I think that they don't, a lot of other personal chefs, they don't have that kind of playfulness that they're bringing to the table of that experience.
I like that. That was great. That was a great answer. I think that's very well spoken and very well said on that. And it's again, I like how you said the foundational piece and really just understanding that part of it is so important. Chef Elizabeth, what would you say? What has been your most difficult struggle? And really, again, how have you overcome that? And I think this is also his second part to that question is, again, how many businesses are in your other area and how do you stick out from the competition, which you, like you said already, have little personal chefs in your area, which some people look as a negative, but it actually can be a very big positive. So what are your thoughts on that, Chef?
Yeah, so the lack of personal chefs in the area was probably the biggest challenge because it affected sales calls and strategic partnership calls. I had to do the educating on both of those. And as you know, I'm really terrified of the strategic partnership calls. Um, Still avoid calls. I'd rather go in person somewhere, but I don't like cold calling. But even on the sales call with anyone who actually was interested, there was that lack of confidence because I felt like I had to do so much educating just to even sell my service. And it hindered in the beginning actually closing those deals. And I think last I looked in Montgomery, there's one that services in Montgomery, but they're out of Auburn. They're a hibachi chef. And he's kind of paving the way to open that door because everyone's used to the drop off catering style. They hear what I do and they're like, I don't know if we can spring for it. We'll wait for a really special event. But then here he comes and everybody knows hibachi. They're used to indulging with that and they get the idea warmed up that a chef can come and cook for them. And then they call me and they're already used to the idea. But I think we kind of play off of the same client base now because we're both making waves in the same areas. And I think I really just have him as my competition, if you can call it competition, but it's two defined niches that we both stand out in our own ways. Because if you're wanting hibachi style, that's what you're going for. If you're wanting Cajun food, you're wanting Cajun food. And I think there's room for several more personal chefs in the area that all have their defined niche.
Yeah.
In Birmingham, there's a few more, but even still, there's not another Cajun cuisine specialty. So somebody's looking for good Cajun food, they know to call me.
I think that's so key on what you said, Chef. I think this applies in any city. I mean, even with Chef Cinnamon saying there's a little under 500, there's probably more than that, but 500, around 500 listings, whether you're finding them on Yelp or Google or whatever, even in Dallas Fort Worth. I mean, it's a massive market. There's still millions of people in that market. There's still hundreds of thousands of people in your market that have never heard or have never hired someone to come and say, I'm a personal chef, or given them an experience in their home. So sometimes we look at competition in our area as, how do I stick out? How do I stick out? How do I compete? I think there's levels to that. Yes, of course. But I think when there's business there and there's more people doing it, it helps educate people. And there's just always hurdles with marketing, right? Like first it's about educating them on what it is. Once they're educated, then it's about marketing to them on what their specific needs and wants are. And that's where the room is made for all. I think that's where the rubber meets the road for a lot of us. And so it really becomes more of, instead of us focusing sometimes on how do I differentiate myself, you're probably already different than everybody else. I will make a very blatant plug. that I think a lot of personal chefs are doing their business and running their business wrong. I think that they have horrible sales experiences for their clients. I think there's horrible onboarding for their clients. I think there's very lack of communication in most cases. So even if you did serve a similar niche, you're probably going to be overtaking them with just the way that you operate, if you have a good system with that. But again, I don't think is there ever a point where, oh, the market's completely flooded out? It's going to take a long time for that to happen, because you're always going to have people doing it not so great. And then you're going to have a lot of individual niches that are very different from each other. Cajun Amore, very different than hibachi, completely different, right? So like, it's actually a different experience. Even though it's there at the home, it's just a different experience as well. But it could be very similar in a lot of ways, which is a good thing for education. So great question for that. Chef Justin, do you have anything? What's your most difficult struggle of opening your business? And again, how did you overcome that?
Mine's a lot like Chef Elizabeth's in the fact of having the confidence to sell myself, making those cold calls and calling these businesses to partner with mine. I think that was the hardest part for me. And the best way for me to overcome those struggles, like I said earlier, is just take one step at a time. I started with smaller businesses that I found on Instagram, and I reached out to them, scheduled calls with them to the point where I felt comfortable having these phone calls to where I could start cold calling and calling these companies, bigger companies. So it was hard. I remember my first call. I literally picked up the phone. They said hello, and I hung up because I was nervous. True story. True story. And I ended up calling them back and just telling them, sorry, I had a service issue. But the reality is I didn't. I was nervous. I had fear. And after I hung up and sat there for a minute, I mean, I have to do this. This is the only way I'm going to build business. I have to make this phone call. Yeah. So jump back in. And then after I hung up, talking with that wedding planner who I ended up doing a tasting for, it worked out great. Now I have a great relationship with her. It was a win, it was a huge celebration because I overcame that fear. And from then on, I was able to continue to make those phone calls.
I remember between you and Chef Elizabeth, with your guys' strategic partnership calls, not exactly your guys' area of love.
No.
In fact, when I was pushing Chef Elizabeth, I was like, are we ready today? And you're like, one more week, like next week. And I'm like, okay, this is the last time I'm extending it, but then I'm going to hold you to it. So, no, it's great. And again, some of us are more naturally feel like we're more comfortable, but I found in there a little bit, Justin, that it sounds like one of your ways that you really put yourself in a position to make sure you overcame it was you gave yourself no plan B. You were just like, I have to do it. Like, it sucks. You're nervous, you're fearful, but I have to do it. And I think that's just, some of us need that. Some of us need to be the rabid dog in the corner, pushed into an area where we can't escape, for us to actually lunge out and do something. Otherwise, we just kind of stay stagnant. And so I think honestly, kind of subconsciously, almost all of us are like that. Sometimes if you're pushed into a position, it's like do or die, right? Like, and that's pretty extreme, but I think a lot of us subconsciously actually benefit from those things where we're put ourselves in situations where we don't have a plan B and we have to make it happen. And I think as chefs, a lot of us, we've had those situations even in our careers, depending on, what career you came from. But most careers, even, like, you're in these situations where there really isn't other options, and you have to kind of go through with making it happen. So again, I'll quote Billy Jean from Billy Jean is Marketing. He always has this big thing on his wall saying, don't make excuses, make it happen. And really, it's just true to go there. So thank you for sharing, Chef. Chef Jared, what about your greatest struggle of opening your business? And really, again, how did you overcome that?
I think my biggest struggle was when I started to put the pedal down and said, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it. My brain went 1,000 places. And I was like, oh, I should do this. I should do that. I should do that. Oh, I could do this. I could do that. And then, like, narrowing it into my niche and what exactly I was trying to put out to people. Once I did that, everything started to align. I think I struggled a lot with my niche, was trying to figure out, because I can cook a variety of foods, I didn't want to be known as the guy who does this, or the guy who does that. And I couldn't quite figure out exactly what I wanted to do. And I was like, I don't want to be like the burger guy and cook burgers every day. You know, that's annoying. And when I realized that my niche was more about the experience and what I could provide to people, that I could create these memories, then everything kind of aligned in that direction, right? And it's just been kind of the driving force from that point forward. And it makes it easy to sell myself because I can ask the right questions to get to the point that I want to get to, right? So is it, I ask about what's the event for, where are we doing it, who's this about, and then before we even talk about a menu, we're already talking about Billy's birthday, and then I go, oh yeah, we got to make a menu. Yeah, let's do that. Like, what does he like to eat? And I think that's what separates me from other chefs. Right? Is they go directly to, here's my menu. Tell me what you want. Let's go. Right? Even chefs around this area that I've talked to, uh, they immediately want to say, oh, I don't do that. And I'm like, why? You just missed out on that. Like, you just missed out. There's a guy locally who, he's like, I don't do anything less than 12 people. Like, dude, those are my favorite parties. Like 5 to 12 people are my favorite parties because I get to like hang out and talk, and like you get to 12, I'm actually like having to work. I have to bring somebody to help me. So yeah, I think that's kind of what separates me, and I've stopped looking at other chefs in the area because I don't want to compare myself to them, and I don't want. I feel like I did that at the beginning. I was like, oh, I should do that. Oh, I should do that, and then I realized that just wasn't me. That wasn't my niche, and so I try not to look at other chefs unless they cross my path, and then we usually become friends. So yeah.
I love that. And chef, how many personal chefs are there in the San Antonio area, in your area?
I don't even know anymore. I mean, there's probably quite a few. I hear them popping up all the time. And it's funny because I hear the difference between the private and the personal, right? So, oh, I'm a private chef. And I'm pretty adamant about saying I'm a personal chef because what I do is personal, right? It's not I'm just working in your house. It's a relationship that we build, and it gets to be personal.
No, I love that. I love that. Wow, we've had so many good answers today. I feel like it's just really, and a lot of great questions, I think, that came in. And, I just really want to just say thank you again for all of you guys being on. And it really means a lot to me. It's just kind of crazy how far God has taken Chefpreneur for it to be starting from a podcast, which we're obviously on right now doing, but all the way into having 4 amazing, um, you know, uh, it's just been, it's one of those things where it's just continuing to be a blessing to see the thing evolve and really help more chefs, right? And now there's 4 certified coaches here and ready to help people. And it's one of those things that, again, it's always a journey, right? To grow the business, it's always a journey. It's always a journey of taking the next step in what you're doing. And a lot of times you could be doing everything right. You just need to, again, have a level of patience at times. Um, every business is like a farmer and its crop. You have to plant seeds. You have to sometimes dig down first, plant a seed, water the seed, take care of the seed, water, get a sprout, protect, get weeds out, focus in, nurture it, take care of it, and eventually you're going to get a harvest. And sometimes we think that if we don't have immediate results, we're doing something wrong, and that's not always the case. In fact, things that take time, things that are things to get to a point where things are in a good way running and operating and the business is growing, it's so funny because even Dave Ramsey, one of his favorite sayings that I like, he's like, "Oh yeah, I have my overnight 25-year business." Like it's funny, right? Because it's just you won't really notice anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, right? And there's just different levels. There's different levels of how, and different challenges of how, different strategic things that you're doing, things that you're playing on and exploring and just continuing to dive in. I will say my last piece of advice for anybody out there wanting to grow their business, in the context of this, and all the chefs that have come on and asked these questions, and the chefs that are answering them here on this panel, um, don't allow yourself to go down a path where you're trying certain things. There's certain areas that you'll try things and you'll figure things out. There's other areas where if you keep digging up the thing that you planted constantly, it's never going to get a chance to grow. So sometimes we try things, we don't really give them a full access of understanding if they're working or not. But if you've been at it for 2, 3, 4 years or something, and it just seems like there's no traction, you just might be planting the seed in the wrong soil. You might not be really building the business correctly. You might feel like you don't really know where to start. And maybe you've tried to start and maybe you've already started. Again, you've gotten the guidance. Even if you're someone who has been with us and really building your business, there's levels of patience you're going to need there. And there's other times if you haven't really got the proper guidance and you really don't know the recipe of how it works to actually plant that seed and grow something and actually produce a harvest, you might just not know that you're not following a system or a method or a recipe per se that is actually working. So what I want to do as well is I want to really give people an access to book a free mentorship call with one of our coaches that you see here. So if you text mentor to 470-664-3227, text mentor again to 470-664-3227. We can get you set up with, maybe scheduling you a call with 30-minute session with one of the coaches just to see where you are in all of your journey and just really seeing, are you following the method per se? Do you even have a recipe you're following? And that might be a huge piece of the problem, to be honest. So again, really want to just thank you guys again for being on. And this has just been an amazing time. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I hope you chefs as well got a lot out of it and were able to really just, love on people and say, hey, this is what we know, what works, what we've tried, what we've done. And again, we've had some great questions as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the podcast today. Again, if you have not subscribed to this podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, or if you're watching here live on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell to get notified again as we go live and we have more content coming out. We're going to be releasing a lot more content in 2025. And again, if you guys want that mentorship session, text mentor to 470-664-3227. Again, thank you guys, chefs, for being here. Love you guys so much. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Take care.